to those, so feel free to share that with your colleagues. For our icebreaker activity today, what we're going to do is if you want to drop your name and your department in the chat, and one thing that you do to conserve energy. So it could be something that you do at home, in the office. So feel free to kind of drop that in the chat as we continue with our intros. Just as a quick recap, earlier this year in January, Commissioners Court actually adopted the county's first climate action plan. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in the chat in case you haven't been able to kind of review that document. Within that plan, we actually have an action focused on employee education and awareness around energy conservation. So today's session actually will be focused on building energy awareness and is really meant to empower you, our Harris County employees, to have the knowledge so that you can be good stewards of our natural resources. We really feel that everyone has a role to play in this work, and we hope that what you learned today from our esteemed panelists are actionable and achievable things that you can do, again, when you're in the office or when you're at home. And with that, I'll pass it to our moderator for today, our energy manager, Glenn Roden. So Glenn, take it away. And Glenn, you're on mute.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, I'm Glenn Roden, the energy manager for the county, and I wanted to talk a bit about what one of my tasks is to reduce energy consumption by 5% per year as a part of our climate action plan. But I want to tell you about what energy management looks like at Harris County. The goal of good energy management is never to make anyone uncomfortable, and certainly to never negatively impact the working environment, but rather to find where there's waste and of the county's energy resources, and then conserve that by reducing utility consumption through energy efficiency. The more efficient we use those resources, the less impact we have on the climate. So we have three presenters today who assist us in reaching these goals of the Climate Action Plan. And we're going to start off with Neil Hendricks with Energy Edge Consulting. Neil is with Energy Edge, which is a Texas-based energy advisory firm. He's been in the energy sector for about 16 years. I've originally worked for Reliant Energy, and he specializes in working with companies who helping them navigate the energy transition. His firm advises the county on energy procurement and is currently working on developing the particulars of a power purchase agreement for solar power and what that would look like at Harris County. So with that, I will turn that over to Neil.
All right. Thank you, Glenn. Everybody can hear me okay? Can you see my screen all right?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So as Glenn mentioned, we're Energy Edge is a advisor and consultant for the county. We worked last year to help the county procure electricity, similar to the way that you have to, choose a supplier for your home. Businesses, municipalities, counties all have to do the same. We are an independent consultant, so we're not associated with any of the suppliers. We actually help the county announce and formal RFP and evaluate offers and make recommendations. And then we provide that role ongoing, so we keep county folks like Glenn and Lisa informed of the market, happenings and some of the fundamentals as they're changing. And as Glenn mentioned, we are now working with the county on that goal 2.1.2 on that renewable power purchase agreement. So Glenn asked me to speak today a little bit and kind of explain, what's going on in the Texas market. I think a lot of folks are noticing that their power bills are going up, that prices seem to be a little bit higher than they had been in the recent past, and that's certainly the case. In Texas, power prices tend to be associated with the price of natural gas. And just like everything else, in the world today, it feels like that price of gas has certainly increased. So what you saw, in 2020, 2021, which was kind of a lower period for energy prices, that's now been replaced with increasing power prices. And a part of that has to do with the fuel, but also just with the fact that ERCOT, based on some severe weather events recently, is attempting to make the grid more reliable. And of course, with that reliability comes additional costs. So that's what is primarily contributing to that. The grid is certainly changing. You know, our power grid, a lot of what's being built today is more on the renewable side. So this is a view of kind of the last 10 years. You know, we had a small percent of that power generation was wind. That has certainly grown in recent years, and now we got quite a bit of solar that is online and will continue to be built out over time, which is good for the Texas grid. You know, solar is going to be generating and performing pretty well on a hot summer Texas day. And we've got a lot more of that's going to be built out, and then there's also be an advent of batteries as well. So that storage combined with those renewables is what's going to be added to the grid and increase our generation in the next couple of years. So for folks at home and certainly thinking about your own personal, you know, power bills or your utility bills, you know, I think two ways to look at it. Number one is the price that you pay for that power, and then number two, how you're using it. So it's very important in Texas, since we are a deregulated state, that if you are within a territory that has a choice for a supplier, that you're constantly monitoring that cost. You're leveraging that power to choose website to evaluate offers. You know, don't let that slip. Don't let your power bill just kind of be on a month to month, and certainly look at offers like you would anything else that you're currently buying. There's no discount for loyalty, so staying with the same company for year after year after year is not going to get you, you know, a better price. You should be pretty proactive in choosing your supplier. And I know there's a lot of, you know, commercials advertising about you know, gifts with your energy purchase or free nights and weekends. Just remember that nothing's free. Always beware of, you know, those advertising gimmicks, and making sure that you're focused on getting the best rate and you know, for your situation. And then on the demand side, you know, the cheapest kilowatt's the one that's never used. So managing your use at home, I think tracking, you know, your usage, your bills month to month, and identifying, you know, when those are changing and what might be causing that. Typically it's going to be weather, and most of what your usage is going to come from is from heating and cooling your home, and certainly from major appliances. So, you know, I think these days a lot of appliances now are enabled with smart features so that you can monitor them and certainly control them remotely, but also keep in mind on, you know, your home's efficiency. And then certainly for thermostats, make sure you're setting schedules. Don't be cooling your home on a hot day when no one's there enjoying the cold air. So just some of those things. Happy to you know, contribute today. Glenn, I appreciate the opportunity, and certainly look forward to what's in store for the county going forward.
So Neil, let me ask you, if Neil, you're not advising us, but if Neil was going to be buying power, if his contract was up and he was going to be going on to the Power to Choose website and buying power, would he buy it right now for what kind of term would he get? Would Neil buy 12 months or 24 months? What would he do?
Oh goodness. Well, you know, I probably know, you know, way too much to be, you know, I think from two perspectives, you know, prices are elevated. So certainly, you know, buying a really long-term contract will kind of certainly lock you into that. If you're able to sort of stay on top of it and, you know, shop that rate, then certainly, you know, shorter terms and looking to, you know, avoid kind of that summer period and get ahead of that, I think is probably the best way to do it. But also, Glenn, think, you know, long term, not sure how much of a discount we're going to get on power prices. And certainly in the next couple of years, it's going to be the question of, are we going to have enough generation to meet demand? The state continues to grow, and certainly those costs will be, you know, elevated and probably volatile going forward. So I would think, you know, anywhere from 12 to 24 months is probably safe, depending on how much you want to do that shopping.
Yeah, thank you for that. One of the respondents' comment was that her bill or his or her power bill was very high, and they were wondering what to do about it. So I'm glad you covered the power to choose.
Yep, and I think folks, like I said, we saw really low prices 2019 through 2021, and last year was a pretty big jump in prices. So I think a lot of folks were surprised to see such a big increase, and hopefully things are at least stable. I know they're elevated, but hopefully things are at least stable and can keep an eye on. But definitely shop. I mean, this is something that's like anything else, car insurance, home loans, all those things. You always want to have an eye on it and manage it. Try not to set it and forget it, as I say.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Neil. There will be a question and answer period at the end of our meeting today, and I also wanted to mention that Energy Edge offered a gift card today for the trivia question. So stay tuned, because at the end of the meeting we're going to have a trivia question, and then a gift card will be whoever answers that question first. So thank you again, Neil. And now we're going to move to Jim Watt. Jim is the owner of Green Star Engineering, and which is an energy efficiency consulting firm that specializes in HVAC systems design, control, and operations. Jim has been doing this type of engineering for over 25 years. He's currently serving as Harris County's retro commissioning agent for the CenterPoint retro commissioning program. Retro commissioning is offered through this program at no cost to existing commercial buildings, with the objective of identifying no cost and low cost energy conservation measures that can be easily deployed. So with that, Jim?
Thank you, Glenn. Let me see if I can get this to share properly here. I thought I would begin, Glenn, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
To transition from Neil's discussion about rates and whatnot, and on that side of it, to just kind of, the end use. This is a diagram that I pulled off the internet, and I gave it proper credit here. But what I wanted to point out was, as the generation, makeup, shifts and becomes more renewable and that sort of thing, that, we all know it's still important to conserve our resources, as Glenn pointed out. So I wanted to say that 40% of all energy consumed is going to our commercial buildings and whatnot. And that, even if you look at the electricity districts, about 75%. And I can tell you from experience that a lot of that is, I would say 30 to 50% in some cases, is wasted. Is wasted energy. And I've been, watching the chat and seeing some of the ideas, and really good ideas on saving energy at home. And let me tell you, those things can be translated to the office as well. The program that Glenn mentioned, the retro commissioning program at CenterPoint, is probably one of the best I've seen. And I've been doing it a long time. Started doing it with Glenn when he was energy manager at Cy-Fair about 15 years ago. But the main goal of this program is a tune-up of your major energy consuming systems. And unlike, I guess, at home, these systems that serve these buildings are very complicated. You've got a central plant that, in the case of many of the buildings in Harris County downtown, there's a central plant that provides chilled water and steam. That energy is consumed within air handlers within each building, and then that's distributed to all the spaces. And I'm going to do my best not to get too engineering with this, but those systems are very complicated, and so there's a lot of opportunity for waste, from point A to point B. And you guys may have seen us coming through your buildings and taking measurements and whatnot. This is a picture of me and my interns, Elizabeth. what we're doing is, we're taking environment, what we call an environmental baseline or a comfort baseline, because, as Glenn said, it's comfort and efficiency going hand in hand, and neither needs to suffer. So what we're doing is trying to figure out the best way to deliver the services needed, in the most efficient manner possible. I've got a little, there's a little blue arrow up here at the discharge air register. And wherever you're at right now, if you look up, at your ceiling, you probably see a register where the air comes out. Behind that is again, all of these systems that ultimately result in that air getting to your space. And really, our job is to make sure that is delivered as efficiently as possible. We're also looking at lighting and things of that nature. You'll notice in this area here, there are lights on. You can't really tell, but because there's a lot of sunlight outside. But that's one I guess obvious ways that energy can be saved when there's enough daylight to turn the lights off. That can be done at home or in an office building. Here's a picture of your friendly energy manager, and one of the guys that really make this happen day to day, in each of your buildings. And we're not only out in the spaces, but we're in here in the mechanical rooms. This is just showing you that we've got this air handler. It's got chilled water for cooling. It's got hot water for heating. There's a lot of opportunity here for waste, just because we're doing both of those things at the same time. One of the wisest mentors of mine once told me, he said, if you want to find the opportunity, look for the simultaneous heating and cooling. I will say another simple example of that might be, in your offices, having if you have a space heater under your desk, if the room is being overcooled, and then you're reheating it with that space heater, that's simultaneous heating and cooling. So all of these systems, again, friendly energy manager, Glenn Roden here. And by the way, Glenn is a master at bringing together, the right resources and expertise to do this. I mean, this is a multifaceted, energy management, multifaceted approach. I mean, you saw the delivery side from Neil, and then, kind of where the rubber meets the road is what I'm trying to convey here right now. But these systems, just like that, are multifaceted, and you have, essentially, unlike your thermostat at home for the air is, a simple example. These systems are controlled by computer-based controllers, and there's programs in there that we optimize, and your support, your staff, operations staff maintains day to day. But these are I guess one time I got a question about, try to explain what I do to somebody, and they asked me, oh, so what do you use, Nest thermostats? Well, in some cases maybe, but most of the cases, we've got much more complex systems than that serving these buildings. This, I wanted to give you just a brief overview of what the impact we've made. This is the administration building. We're actually in the process of looking at 8 buildings. We've gone through 4 of them. This is the administration building alone, and you could easily take many of the things that you put in the chat and kind of put them in some of these groups. What you're looking at here is kind of a picture of the energy consumption for the administration building over a year's time. And you can, in some of the stuff, the very first opportunity is scheduling. And I think that, an example, when you set your thermostat up at home, or you turn the air conditioning off or whatever, turn your lights off, that's scheduling. And just making sure that those systems are off when you don't need them. And I would say that even throughout the day, if you notice, lights on in the copy room or the break room or whatever, you know, they're on, nobody's there, just turn them off and do a little energy savings project there. But one of the first things, I call this a quick hit. And we're going back, the purpose of the CenterPoint program is to make what you have more efficiently. The intent is low cost, no cost. So we're not spending a lot of money to do these things. I mean, scheduling is definitely one of them. And it's a really big one here. You can see that if you follow this axis here, if you can imagine going from the beginning of the year in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, sometime in July, we started scheduling the administration building. You see a massive drop in the electricity consumption at night. It still goes up during the day. And this, essentially all of this energy is, the air handlers coming on, and then the lights coming on, the computers coming on, and so forth. All of that stuff adds up to, give us our peak during the middle of the day, and then things start going off at night, and eventually we turn them off, and we end up with this base load here rather than this really high base load here. That is an example of scheduling. And, there's many more things that we're doing that take a little longer, but that's a quick hit. That's just like when you're walking by the copy room and the light's on and you turn it off, that's a quick hit, but we're going through the process, with Greg Medlin and the others in the group that operate the systems to do set point adjustments, optimize flow rates, reduce the simultaneous heating and cooling, and so forth. At the administration building alone, what we're projecting is saving about 1 million kWh, 700 million BTUs in natural gas, and about that translates at today's rates into, and this includes consumption and demand, about $90,000 annually. I threw some equivalent metrics up here. That's equivalent, and we're talking about the administration building alone, about 138 homes, 158 cars, or 86 million smartphones charged. I'm not sure how good that one is, but thought it was interesting. But all of these things are super important from the, not only, saving the stuff for the sake of saving money, but saving our climate in general, but the resiliency of the grid. We all know, if you paid attention to some of the alerts over the summer with from ERCOT about the grid, asking us to save energy because we're reaching the limits of the reaching capacity for the grid. And particularly during severe weather events, that becomes really, really important. So we can do our part that way. Anything else, Glenn, that I've failed to mention here?
No, I think that you've covered an awful lot there, Jim. And I by the way, I appreciate the PR, but that was far too many pictures of your friendly energy manager. This graph is really a very good representation of what's been going on here in terms of this, what the work you've been doing with this retrocommissioning. So we really appreciate the efforts that you are doing here for Harris County. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. So our last presenter is Greg Medlin. You heard him mention earlier. He's with BOS, and he's worked at Harris County for almost 33 years in a variety of different roles. He ran the HVAC shop and managed the capital improvement plan for BOS, and very recently started a building controls division. He'll speak to the function of that division, to what types of calls the BAS group responds to, and the need as the buildings are audited for the schedules to be requested for after hours occupancy. I think one of the things that was mentioned in the responses, Greg, was someone's office was too cold, and they had a concern about that. So hopefully you'll address that during your presentation. Thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, like I said, I've been here about 33 years in different functions. In March, we decided it was time that we needed a controls division. We actually have been trying to do that for the past 6 years, but the opportunity came up this March. Right now, there's 4 of us in that section, and we've been working with Glenn and Jim Watts and helping with getting the information, and implementing some of the things that are on the retro commissioning. We've also are going to be part of a new retro commissioning that's a remote retro commissioning that Glenn has set up with CenterPoint. And I think we'll be the first ones to utilize that, and excited about that. But now what we basically do is all hot, cold calls come to my group first. If it's hot, cold, temperature adjustment, or scheduling change through the work task system, it goes to us first. We're going to look at it. We have about 150 buildings on the control systems, on mainly 2 control systems, and they're real robust. We can see a lot. Instead of just the average guy going in and just changing the temperature, we actually look at it to see if something is not functioning properly. If we can fix it with a computer change, then we do. If it's a mechanical problem that's got the equipment not working right, we contact the regional maintenance to look at it, and we send that work task over. But it seemed to help, and it's knocked down the hot and cold calls because we don't have as many people adjusting temperatures and setting them too low. Glenn had told me about someone complaining about being too cold, and they had space heaters in, which really by the county standards, you're not supposed to have them. What we'd really like though is if you're cold or hot, please call that work task in. There's a help desk at 713-755-2255. And they will take all the information down, and we get that call within 10-15 minutes, and there's 1 of 4 of us looking at it all the time, and so it's going to be responded to quickly, and we want a resolution of it, even if we have to come over there and do it ourselves or whatever it takes. Is we want comfort in the building. Again, I was the AC supervisor and realize how many people call in, and some of them want it really cold, and it's not that we're changing your set points right now. We're just trying to make everybody even. If it takes a balancing of the air to make people more comfortable, checking the systems to make sure they're working properly. A lot of times they're not, but we can see them, we monitor them. We're here. Some of the people are here as early as 6 a.m. So the calls, there is nobody monitoring those at night though. So when you do have hot, cold, and scheduling things, we really need you to get it in before 3 o'clock in the evening. And if it's on the week, if you have a weekend schedule, that you get it in before noon. It's not hard for us to change and put the schedules in. Right now, we've only really scheduled 4 buildings downtown and have not had really any complaints. We had one person that came in that had not put a request in that had a mock trial. They did call me and I changed it on the weekend, but that's not something that you want to count on. We will be sending out from the department a letter stating that and what to really expect, and we need input from everybody. I've talked to a few people. Most likely we will go to your buildings and find out what your real schedules are. The closer we can get them, the better it is for the savings. And we've also been doing some of the 4CP, which is trying to save you from hitting these 4 peaks during the summer. We're working on a bunch of reprogramming and dashboards to make that happen easier. We had to do that for nearly a month, and it took my group working late in the afternoons and then getting on it at night and setting them back whenever we had these occurrences or when they were projected, which we were so hot this summer that it was projected to be a peak every day. It just got worse and worse. So we did that for almost a month, and we've got it simpler now. Most people did not realize we were even doing it. at between 3 and 3:30, we relaxed the set points by 2 degrees. It knocked down the draw on the building tremendously. And I only got one phone call of somebody being warm that realized it changed at that time. And he worked for me. So
Hey, Greg,
The-
could you give that number again? There were some folks that didn't catch
Yes.
that. If you could put it in the chat too, that would be
Okay.
good.
okay, I
This is
will.
hot and cold calls right now. The scheduling is
Right.
very limited at this point. As we audit
Right.
the buildings, we'll be implementing that, but we'll let folks know before that takes place.
Yeah, and we don't want everybody panicking, thinking we're putting a schedule in them right now on all of them. We're waiting for the audits, and so we can capture the baselines and recoup what we can in a better way. But it is coming. But for the most part, we already scheduled admin, jury assembly, civil building, and 1910 courthouse. And like I said, besides one court, and we started that in July. We've only had one person call on a weekend saying, hey, we needed the air on in here. It's not that it's completely off, it's just set back to higher temperatures.
Yeah.
And the scheduling is really sophisticated because it knows how long it takes to get to temperature, and it will have it at temperature at the time you walk in. It's not that it turns it on at that time. It may start in the summer, it may start 2 hours before. As mild as it is right now, it may only start 15 minutes before if the temperature's not away from set point very much. So it's very intuitive. They're really good. We are constantly upgrading all the modules. I've got 30 projects right now to upgrade modules so that they're not obsolete and we can go forward with better programs. And we're implementing programs during that time that Jim has written to really get better usage out of our equipment, because there is a lot of savings.
Could you repeat that number again, Greg?
Yes, it's 713-755-2255.
Thank you.
It's the customer service. They've got an email too for customer service, but it's real simple to call. It's a Universal Services mans that 24/7. They're gonna call it in, and if it's an emergency or anything, we do have on-call people, like an AC on-call person, but we'd rather not do that for scheduling. If you know you're gonna have an event, and like I got sent one from some of the libraries, they're gonna have early voting.
Oh.
And they have a schedule on when those rooms are gonna be needed after hours or late hours. So it took me maybe 2 or 3 minutes to put that schedule in. It's really simple and really quick. And in the future, we really want to get really a lot tighter with them. But I want to go out and talk to people and find out what their real needs are on that. But I do want to emphasize it. If you are too cold or too hot, please put in a work task, and it's going to come to our group. It's not going to go to just the maintenance guy, and we will make sure that it's taken care of, because we don't want space heaters. We have had some fires in buildings due to those kind of things, or a refrigerator that was brought in. They're really not supposed to be in the building. They're not rated for it. It's dangerous, and it causes a lot of damage whenever it does. So that's about it.
Well, thank you, Greg. We appreciate all of that, and I'm sure your phone will be ringing off the hook here pretty shortly.
I didn't give my phone number.
All right, very good. I think there's been some questions. I don't know. It looks like some folks, Jim may have answered some of them, but I think the first question was would office doors left open or closed, if feasible, assist in energy efficiency or not greatly impacted either way? What do you think about that, Jim? You're muted, Jim.
I was reading another question when you were saying, can you repeat the question,
I
please?
can, absolutely, I can. With office doors left open or closed, if feasible, assist in energy efficiency or not greatly impacted either way?
I would say it wouldn't impact it greatly in either way. Closing your door when you're not there, I would say is a good idea. I think there's other reasons for that, but yeah, I don't think that's going to impact things either way very much, energy wise.
Right. And then, okay, so here's another question. It's hot outside and I'm leaving the house for the afternoon. Is it more efficient to increase the temperature on the thermostat, or is it more efficient to turn off the AC altogether and restart it when I return?
I'm always going to say that it's going to be more efficient to turn it off altogether and restart it when you return. And without going into the details of that, in general, that is the truth. You know, if you find, like, if you know it's going to be really hot and you just don't want to be hot for 15 or 20 minutes when you walk in the house, and you might want to curb that a little bit. But from an energy perspective, turn it off.
Yeah, I think we'd call you an energy czar with that answer. Actually, if you'll set it up to about 83 or 84 degrees, it will be able to pull it down a lot sooner, on a very, very hot day.
No, there's no question. Yes. That's what I mean. If you, you just don't know how long you're going to be gone. I mean, if you look, anyway, my pat answer is turn it off. But yeah, if you want to be comfortable on a very hot day coming back, obviously you want to set it back to something reasonable. 83 to 85 is a good one.
Yes. All right, let's see. There's another question here. Do smart bulbs use excessive energy as they're technically always on? And let's see. I think, are we talking about LEDs? Are smart bulbs being? I'm not sure about that term actually.
Maybe they're connected, like Internet of Things type of device. And if they have that sort of connectivity, obviously they're using power. Some of these devices get power from, just the environment, and they're powered that way. I would make sure that maybe that's the case. The amount of power they're consuming is probably pretty small, and if you're getting better scheduling of the bulb itself from that, it's probably a good trade-off.
Yeah, very good. Let's see, do we have another question? Lisa, did you have another one?
I didn't see any other ones. If folks have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat.
Yeah.
We might be moving to our trivia questions soon, though, right?
Yeah, right.
The best question of all.
Okay, so all right.
Oh wait, actually, I think Janet actually has her hand raised. So Janet, did you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Yes, hi. I just wanted to ask about the tip to improve home efficiency. I'm in an older home, so I know that I need to work on that, but I don't know, like, what are the terms I should be searching for on Thumbtack or Google if I'm trying to find somebody to help me with that? How do I find a vendor for that?
Would you like for me to answer that, Glenn, or you can?
Yeah, go ahead. I think CenterPoint actually has some. Don't they have some residential programs? I'm not as familiar with them, but anyway, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to clarify that there's two ways I heard that question. One is resources. I mean, CenterPoint Energy, I would look on their residential programs for ideas. And the DOE also is a great resource for general ideas residentially. Make sure you're looking for ideas that apply to our climate zone, which is the Gulf Coast region. But as far as finding somebody to help, yeah, I don't know where you would find a specific, where to go to call find a good person. You just kind of asking around your air conditioning person, if you have a good relationship. It's kind of like having a good mechanic. They're kind of hard to find, but find a guy that's it's honest, and they'll be glad to share with you tips on that, and maybe even perform some of those things for you.
Yeah, actually, I think Janet, if you'll go to the CenterPoint website, and it says commercial and then residential, I think there may be some ideas there on that CenterPoint website, the CenterPoint efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed that when I put that screen earlier with the CenterPoint website, there was a tab called residential. So
yes, there's some resources there.
Yep.
Okay, so another question is, do those mechanical timers that help with scheduling actually help conserve energy?
Absolutely. Yeah, anything that's gonna, um, I guess schedule anything that you have off when it's not needed, and you don't have to remember to do that is helpful.
Yeah. To Jim's point, they use less energy when they're off.
Yeah, I think Neil said that too.
Yeah, he did. Actually, he did. Yeah. How impactful are small appliances that are left plugged in?
Everything adds up,
Mhm.
that's the bottom line. It's kind of like your checkbook. You get to the end of the month and you go, wow, how did I spend that much money? You start looking, you spent $2 here, $3 there. It didn't seem like much at the time, but at the end of the month, it all added up. So same thing with, with these little devices that are always consuming power. And that's why many Energy Star devices, in order to be qualified for Energy Star, do turn themselves off, turn the displays off and things like that when they're not in use.
Right. I think we used to call it the transformers for the phones, the little phone chargers. We call them vampire power. They using power even when they're not in use. Okay, let's see. Is using a surge protector strip for small appliances for more than one item really a smart idea?
Well, that's an electrical question.
And it depends on what it is that you're.
Yeah,
I just have to say it depends what you're plugging in. Because there's
exactly.
your appliances, whatever it is you're plugging in, are rated for a certain amount of amperage, and your circuit's rated for a certain amount of amperage, and that power strip's rated for a certain amount of amperage. So that's really it's not a clear-cut answer on that one.
It's not a clear cut. And I think that most of the time your electrical systems are going to protect you from, if you do happen to run two things at once that are overamping that circuit. But from an energy standpoint, it doesn't have an impact.
Okay, another question is are there any incentives out there for solar/sustainable energy?
Any what?
So are there any, and I think it's incentives, yes. Are there any incentives?
Absolutely, there are.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
The Inflation Reduction Act has money for residential heat pumps, in fact.
Oh, yeah. Man, I don't know. I can't sit there and rattle them off, but yeah, I think again, the place to look for those is usually the local utility, the transmission and distribution utility. In our case, it's CenterPoint. But also there are tax incentives available for a lot of things from, the federal government as well.
Absolutely. Are there any more, Lisa?
Maybe we do one more. I think Neil, if you want to answer the free nights and programs for retail electricity provider, then we can move to the trivia
That'd be a good
question.
one for him,
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend to know exactly how the programs work, but having worked for a retailer, I know that they're never giving away anything for free. Usually they're trying to make themselves whole. So if they're offering a reduced rate at night, that's probably because the market power prices are lower at night. So they're getting a better benefit of what they're buying to serve your particular needs, or they're wrapping that around to a different period, and so you're probably paying a higher than market rate in other hours when you may need to run that air conditioner a lot longer or so forth. So that's kind of my perspective on the topic.
Thank you, Neil.
All right. Glenn, shall we move to the trivia? We're at time, and so this is probably the thing that people have been waiting for.
Let's do. You want me to ask a question? Do you want to?
Go for it. Yep.
Okay, so here's the question. Lisa's going to watch the chat box and see who puts in the answer first. But here we go. If electricity is the only choice, okay, let me start over. What technology does the Department of Energy indicate is preferable for most climates as an alternative to electric resistance heat, where electricity is the only choice? And let me say that again. So what technology does the Department of Energy indicate is preferable in most climates as an alternative to electric heat, where electricity is the only choice?
Glenn, you might want to give a hint.
So if you live in an all-electric neighborhood, and
We actually got an answer. Stephanie Turner from Public Health. Heat pump is the correct answer.
absolutely, ding ding, that's it. All right, very good. We'll get that gift card to you.
All right. Well, with that, we will close out today's forum. We're going to try to keep these up going into 2024, so stay tuned for that. And again, thank you all for your participation today and your really engaging questions and feedback. So we'll be sending out kind of follow-up on the recording. And then again, thank you to all the speakers today. Fantastic job. And we will talk with you all soon. Thank you so much.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.